Now, this song reminds me of the times we're in now, but I think it's interesting because of the times that it was supposed to be written in. So, this is Psalms 13. Until the end, a psalm for David. How long, O Lord, wilt thou forget me unto the end? How long dost thou turn away thy face from me? Isn't that what people say? Well, if God was real, why does he allow bad things to happen? They act like God is this all-seeing genie, right? That's constantly looking out to make sure everything in life runs smoothly. And if there's any hiccups, there's no such thing as a God. They just don't. I mean, when people talk like that, and they think like that, and that's their rationale for there being no, creator. You got to really wonder about their psyche. But then again, the Psalms say, "Do not give what does it say? Do not give ear to a fool." So when people start talking like that, it's just like, hey, what can I say? You don't know what you don't even know the first thing about God, right? Because you wouldn't be saying that. I mean, just read this Old Testament; it's full of trials that would happen to good people. What Jeremiah, right? That's the one I'll never forget when I was reading through the book of Jeremiah, and he warned the king, what was it, of Judah, that or I think it was Judah, but he warns one of the kings. It was either Judah or Israel, that the Babylonians were coming. But the Babylonians had a plan. They knew that the Egyptians were gonna reinforce the king. So the Babylonians were gonna act like they were gonna arrive. When they seen the forces of the Egyptians, they would fake like they were going back, back to their land. But as soon as the Egyptians called off the troops and called them back, home, then the Babylonians would attack. And they were like, "Oh, what are you doing? You're putting fear in the hearts of the people," right? Right. So they took Jeremiah and dropped him down a well, with no water, and it could have broke his legs, could have snapped his kneecaps, and he could have died down there, right? Beat him up too. You know, black on black crime. But how where was the fairness in that? you know but they don't want to hear those stories. They want to think of God being this omnipotent genie that just is there to make sure, or some type of, I don't even know if genie is the right term, just some type of uh, ponies, roses, and rainbows at all times. It's just sick. The world doesn't work like that. Let's see here. How long shall I take counsel in my soul, sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemies be exalted over me? Consider and hear me, O Lord, my enlightening, my God. Wow. enlightening enlightening my eyes, that I never sleep in death, lest at any time my enemies say, I have prevailed that against him. They that trouble me will rejoice when I am moved. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. I will sing to the Lord, who hath given me good things. It seems that's a reoccurring theme. No one really praises him when life's going good, but boy, if the guy gets tough, it's like, oh, where are you, God? Right? When life's going good, it's, man, I'm blessed, and that's the most they'll say is, I'm blessed, and that's it, right? And like that's good enough. And it's like, no, I will sing to the name of the Lord, the Most High. There again, the importance. His name is the most important of all. I'll say it again. Othello, take not from me my good name. Now look at this. Look at the natural man, huh? Now this might be something interesting because it also gives you Romans 3:9-20. Now this might be something to read and consider if this has anything to do with the legal status of a natural man, right? And there's something else. Before I go on, there's something I want to point out. I want to start addressing. I started reading the Babylonian Talmud over the last 2 weeks, and um, I've decided I want to start bringing some of the stuff to you guys. If you were like me at one point in time, you're like, it's Babylonians, but right there, the first name, Babylonian Talmud, nothing to do with us. Leave it alone, you know. But I've just been I've been filled full of courage lately, and I've been like, forget this stuff. I'm gonna press it. There's some interesting stuff in that Babylonian Talmud, and I know these rabbis have nothing to do with our rabbis. At least that's what I'm getting. The more I learn, but the concepts is what I'm taking away from it. They talk about pillars, right? A pillar in front. Look, all right. For instance, right? They make it. You always hear those jokes. If you want a good lawyer, get a Jewish lawyer, right? Why? Because a Jewish lawyer understands law. But it's just like Buddhism, right? Buddhism, they teach you to steady the mind, filter out as much negative thoughts that you've gathered through the years, and then also feed the body by learning a martial arts, a self-defense. So you got really good stuff. You got the mind, you have thoughts. Now you have different verses that put thoughts in your head to think about throughout the day, right? And then you learn a martial art to physically make sure your body's fit. So you got the mind and the body. I don't want to go soul, but you know what I'm saying, like, you got those parts taken care of. What I've noticed with the Babylonian Talmud, it's all about public and private. At least the first part of the book that I'm in. It's all about public, private, public, private. What is public space? What is private space? Like, for instance, what is a public street? Public street is a street that has two ways to enter the street. You can come in from one direction or you can come from another. An alley is private because it only has one way to come in. A doorpost is private, right? Because the way they look at it, the door only consists of three parts: the two sides and the roof, or the upper, the upper hash of the door, you know, which makes you think about the whole smearing of the blood over the doorpost, right, in Israel, in Egypt, and all that, right? And it gets crazy because then it starts talking about pillars, right, outside of buildings, the space between them being public space. If there's a bench between the pillars, private space if it's not. And then it brings me back to the whole old mansions that were built back in the you see back throughout the South, right? Why do all of them have columns and pillars? Why do the Capitol buildings and stuff like that have pillars? What's the point of that? Public private space, so above, so below. Ha ha ha, right? Because they didn't think about all those Greek movies. Why do they always have to have pillars? So it gets into all this kind of stuff. It talks about the what's it talks about the Passover, right? It talks about the Passover, right? Oh my goodness, this is one I had to tell Vince, right? I told Vince about but this is one of the ones I had to tell Vince because I couldn't figure this out. All right, so at one point it talks about the land. If the land is so high, then you're holding a public ceremony. If the land is so low, you're holding still a public ceremony. The land has to be so high for it to be a private ceremony. It talks about the debates that he had, that the Passover is a private matter. Okay, God gave it to Moses, the instructions for the Passover in private, which he then turned and went into Egypt and told the children of Israel about it in private, right? So this is a private matter. But then they mentioned something that was interesting, right? Besides the land having to be a certain, lot. Because then this popped in my head with Lex went and had the Passover, right? Because they talked about from the beginning of the Passover to the end of the Passover, 2 souls are added to you. 2 souls are added to you while you observe the Passover. Now you have your own soul. Why would you need 2 extra souls of given to you during the Passover? And then it reminded me of what we're doing right now, the books of Psalms, right? What did it say about the past? We read that one verse in the beginning where it said that who can intercede on the dead's behalf, right? Something to that effect, right? Who can make sessions for the dead's behalf? And it clicked. That's what the Passover is about. Well, in some degree, right? you're also you're also doing what the Catholics try to do, where they have the All Souls Day or All Saints Day, and they worry about praying for the dead that's in Shield. When you're having the Passover, you're you're interceding on the behalf of your ancestors who tried to live righteous that may still have had sin with them, right? That died. But it's hidden right there in the Babylonian Talmud. I'm like, what? Oh man. And there was more, there was more, there was so much more. Oh man. The whole sky above the who owns the sky above private land. No one can fly over private land, which tells you the Babylonians must have known in sometime in the future there would have been flying things that people could fly over private property, because they talk about it in their Talmud that no one can fly over private property. And there was other stuff, but that was the stuff that was exciting me. But let me get back to this. Let me get back to this. Until the end, a psalm for David. The fool hath said in his heart, listen to this, there is no God. They are corrupt and become abominable in their ways. Dirty, 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 right? There is none that doeth good, not one. The Lord hath looked down from heaven upon the children of men to see if there be any that understand and seek God. They are all gone aside. They have become unprofitable together. Where we heard that before, right? Why can the black community build? But this is speaking of all people, right? There is none that doeth good. No, not one. Their throats are an open sepulchre. With their tongues they act deceitfully. The poison of asp, I think that's how you pronounce it, is under their lips. Lips. Their mouth is full of cursing, right? Cursing, not swear words, right? Cursing, right? What did Rick Ross say? I write all my curses in cursive, cursing. There you go. And bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Ooh, yeah, that sounds familiar, right? Deception and unhappiness is in their way, and the way of peace they have not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes. What does the book of Psalms say? The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Now I know they try to say, "Oh, we beat the fear of God in them, to put them in their place." I think that's the wrong, misinterpretation, because I go back to Proverbs. I think that the fear is a respect for and a desire for seeking Him, like he said up there, who understands and seeks God. I think that's what this is about. It has nothing to do with putting a fear of God where you're brutalized and scared of Him. Like they try to do with the whole Christianity thing and the black slave narrative, because it clearly states here in the Old Testament that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. I've given up looking at all these other gods. I want to know about this I am that I am. Shall not all they know that work iniquity, who devoureth my people as they eat bread? See, this is the person that like like for instance, I teach my sons, everything that I've learned. So I teach them to read etymology. I teach them legal definitions. If I learn the legal definition, they got to know it. If I learn the banking definition, they got to know it. I use the Strong Concordance, so now they got to know it. I make them repeat it back to me. My oldest son, he came back from school and was like, "Dad, this girl says that Haya is not real, that she worships God." And it's like, does she even know what God is? No. I said, so she's a fool. There in the discussion. They have not called upon the Lord. See, they there have there have they trembled for fear where there was no fear. For the Lord is in the just generation. You have confounded the counsel of the poor man. See, take care of the poor. Don't walk on them. Don't spit on them. Don't go around punching them out when they're begging, right? Like you see these videos of these young people. But the Lord is his hope, who shall give out, who shall give out of Zion the salvation of Israel. When the Lord shall have turned away the captivity of his people, Jacob shall rejoice, and Israel shall be glad.